The Chairman Board of Trustees, BOT, of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Walid Jibrin, has recommended the setting up of a high-powered delegation to visit Governor Wike of Rivers State to try and reconcile with him. Wike has been unhappy over the outcome of the party's presidential primary won by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. The situation was further compounded when Atiku chose Delta State Governor Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa as running mate after some governors had voted for Wike. However, in a statement yesterday in Kaduna, Jibrin said it was imperative to set up a delegation to visit Wike for reconciliation. He said the presidential candidate himself should lead the delegation. The BOT chairman also frowned on comments being made by some party members and Nigerians about the choice of Okowa as the presidential running mate. Meanwhile, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Iyorchia Ayu, is now at the center of the Cold War between the presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar, and the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, following the presidential primaries and the selection of running mate for the party. Some party chieftains who are sympathetic to Wike have condemned the party's chairman for the way he handled the matter so far. Sources within the party said the main contention now is the position taken so far by the national chairman, which is seen as favoring one side. With tension within the PDP, there's also a possibility that some aggrieved members will be rooting for the removal of Ayu. The PDP is still burning.
Absolutely, and this reminds me of Machiavelli when he says men must either be caressed or entirely annihilated because they react so, violently to slights. Slights are such a problem, and it is clear that Governor Wike feels slighted. So if you don't like somebody, if you're against them, annihilate them completely. Otherwise, be nice to them. That middle ground is what breeds so much room for vengeance, which is what is looking like Governor Wike might consider if he is not quickly brought back into the fold and treated respectfully, because the slight is from the fact that he didn't win the presidential primary. That was fair and square. The real issue is that he wasn't chosen. He was overlooked for that vice presidential slot. There's some reports now claiming that he actually wanted it. So he feels, as Governor Autumn has said, there was a committee of 17, 14 chose him, and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar slighted him by overlooking him and choosing somebody else. However, PDP stalwarts, party members are coming out to explain that that's not the only committee that was commissioned for the purposes of helping Alhaji Atiku Abubakar find a suitable running mate, that there were others. So what we can presume from that is that those others might have been in favor of Governor Okowa. All of this should not be explained via newspaper headlines and TV interviews. I think the personal approach is really important now so that he does not feel, this is Governor Wike, does not continue to feel disrespected. As is often said, he was the one holding the party together when everybody else took off, either, literally or figuratively. Some people left for other parties, some people left for other countries, and he was here. So he does feel that he has been mistreated. And with regards to the PDP chairman, I recall last October, I believe it was, when he emerged as a Northern Consensus candidate, Iyorchia Ayu did say that he will step down as PDP chairman to respect that delicate geopolitical balance that we all observe in this country, even though we like to pretend every so often that it's really irrelevant. This is absurd to say that it's irrelevant. It's extremely important. And he said he would step down if the party wants him to step down. That's actually what he said, because I went back to read his interview. So now it's up to the party. Now, these calls have been made, yes, to preserve that balance. But I remember you, Dr. Abati, raised the red flag immediately the news broke that Iyorchia Ayu had said of Governor Tambuwal that he was the hero of the convention. You felt that he misspoke, and a lot of people in the party agree with you. That offended a lot of people because of that same delicate geopolitical balance that we must try and observe in this country. Governor Wike is from the South, so that's another reason why he feels hard done by, that it should be the turn of the South, and that did not happen. Governor Tambuwal made the choice that he did, but you should not have a PDP chairman sort of congratulating him for making that choice. It should be impartial. No less of a personality than elder statesman E.K. Clark blasted Iyorchia Ayu at the time for that statement. After you had said it, the floodgates opened and he was roundly criticized. And there are also allegations of financial impropriety against Iyorchia Ayu. So these are so many issues that really need to be attended to. But the point must be made. PDP in the past must learn from their history. They have never been able to survive any kind of implosion. That is just the bottom line. When things like this happen, when these fault lines appear in the party, they lose elections. That is just the fact of the matter. So every kind of overture that's necessary, personal from Atiku Abubakar, it's not enough to tweet. It's not enough just for the chairman of the BOT to make this excellent suggestion that he's made. It does mean the presidential candidate actually going to approach everybody who feels disgruntled and just really smoothing all those ruffled feathers because of what is at stake here.
Dr. Batim?
Okay. The point you were making about the quote about crushing your enemy. Yes, it's the same point. Robert Greene, in the book 48 Laws of Power, quoting, from the example of Napoleon, says that when, you have an enemy, don't treat the enemy with kid gloves. You crush the enemy completely. But in politics, I don't think that, that philosophy of defeat, of enmity, will work in politics. Politics is about common interests. It's about compromises. And although in situations of war, you may have to crush your enemy, in politics, there must be compromise, there must be negotiation, there must be dialogue, which is why I think it's in order that the leadership of the PDP is trying to reach out to Nyesom Wike, who, by the way, is back from the vacation he took in Turkey, where we were even told that the presidential flag bearer, Atiku Abubakar, had sent a former minister to him at the lobby of the hotel where he was staying in Istanbul, and he even refused to talk to the person. But when he came back, he has made a point that the main task ahead is to unseat the All Progressives Congress. So that must have given the leadership of the party some hope that indeed there is room for reconciliation. And of course, Samuel Ortom, who is in Wike's corner in this matter, had said on this same program that they are interested in dialogue, while he personally is fasting and praying and looking up to God to give him a direction. So what the chairman of the BOT, Alhaji Jibrin, has done is to say that a high-powered delegation will go to meet with Governor Wike in Port Harcourt or wherever he chooses. And this will include 13 PDP governors, all members of the BOT, and other major stakeholders in the party. So the chairman of the board of trustees of the party is perfectly in order to be preaching unity and to have also formally recognized the contribution of Wike to the party. So Wike, clearly, in the estimation of the board of trustees, is not a man that they can throw away. And that delegation is to be led by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and also by Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State, who is a running mate to the presidential flag bearer of the party. Such a powerful delegation should make some impact. And Wike himself, who has been accused in some quarters of refusing to pick calls and making himself unavailable, the most recent being the incident reported at the hotel in Istanbul, should make himself available. If indeed is truthful, when more than once he has said that he's a party man and he will not leave the party. Some of his supporters tell me that, look, when he made that statement, it was based on the condition that the presidential primary process will go smoothly and it will be fair and it will be just, not that there will be a hanky-panky. Well, that's the interpretation of persons in his camp who also expected that he should have been chosen as a running mate. It's too late now. The candidate cannot change his mind. Okowa having been chosen. So what the party needs is unity. And Alhaji Atiku Abubakar himself has consistently said that he wants to unify the party, beginning with the community, beginning with the party, and then the general society in the event that he becomes president of Nigeria in 2023. Now, the second leg of the matter, which has to do with Iyorchia Ayu, the chairman of the party from the North Central. Now, Governor Ortom refrained from commenting on Iyorchia Ayu. When I posed that question to him, he was diplomatic. He danced away from it. Maybe perhaps because he and Iyorchia Ayu are from the same zone, and he was one of the persons who supported him to become chairman of the party. But former Governor Ayofayoshe has been very unequivocal in his tweets on Twitter. He pointed out Section 3C of the Constitution of the People's Democratic Party, which talks about federal character. And this whole idea of federal character is in pari materia with Section 14, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution. To wit, you cannot have the candidate from the North, and then you also have the chairman of the party from the North. And it's the PDP that established this principle, which their neighbors, the APC, even at some point said they were going to copy. It looks like the APC has even been more faithful to that doctrine than those who said, look, this is our guiding principle. The other part of it is the affirmation by Iyorchia Ayu himself when he assumed that position, that he will step down in the event that the candidate comes from the North. Now, two things. It's a matter of honor for Senator Iyorchia Ayu himself. If he has said publicly that, look, if the candidate comes from the North, then I will have no option but to step down. Well, we should be able to trust politicians when they make promises, when they make declarations, okay? So if they are speaking poetry, we should know that this is poetry. If they are speaking in prose, we should know that this is prose. Not, an amphibious, unreliable attitude when anything comes out of their mouth. So it's a matter of honor for him, and it is on record that he made that promise, and he should be able to stand by his own words. Yes, Wike's camp, and Wike and his supporters, they have every reason to be aggrieved. After Tambuwa, Governor Tambuwa stepped down at the party convention and declared support for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Within 24 hours, the chairman of the party was there, calling him a hero, which means that Ayu probably never even wanted Wike in the first place. So Wike is likely to think that there is a conspiracy against him and the chairman is there. But he and Fayoshe, they are arguing from a position of principle about balance, about not having the two leading personalities in the party. The candidate is effectively the leader of the party. The chairman is also a major stakeholder. The chairman of the board of trustees is also a major stakeholder. What they are saying is that how can you have a political party where all the major leaders of the party are from one region? The same problem that even people outside the party, non-politicians, are saying, no, we don't want one region dominating everybody in a multilingual, multi-plural society, multicultural society like Nigeria. I don't think we can fault that. And I hope that this will be part of the negotiations when the meeting takes place. And when that meeting takes place, as I said last week, Governor Wike himself should be willing to make peace because it's a double-edged sword. Okay? He too has a lot at stake. I'm sure he wants the PDP to win in Rivers State. He wants to ensure that he succeeded by his party. Of what value will he be if he loses the election in Rivers State? Okay? And in any case, since he says he's not going to leave the party, he will still have to work with these other persons within the political party, since he cannot be a one-man political party unto himself, no matter how influential he may have been.
Did you say that there's no enmity in politics and that we should trust what politicians say?
I didn't say we should trust what politicians say. I said we should be able.
Just check.
There should be honor even among politicians. I don't want to use the other word.
You know, the funny thing is, all of a sudden, Wike that was said to be immaterial last week has now become the material man. So material enough now that they are setting up a committee of 13 to go and beg him. I thought they said he had no bite. I thought they said he had no spine. Then why are the PDP going to beg him? If he had no bite or no spine or nothing? Or if it's going to be a lose-lose scenario for him? The politicians say everything. You see, when I look at politicians, I remember my chemistry class. In chemistry, they taught us first 20 elements. They taught us about mercury. Mercury is the only element that changes. At under standard temperature and pressure, mercury is a liquid. But under other pressure, it becomes a metal. It's quicksilver. So it is out of the element, the behavior of that element, mercury, that the Igbo people brought about a word called mercurial. So that's who they are. They are mercurial in nature. Politicians are mercurial. So politicians going back on their words, it doesn't surprise me because they are very mercurial in nature. This is the same PDP that somebody sat down at a point, Chief Vincent Ogbulafo, and said the PDP will rule for the next 60 years in this country. Are they ruling for the next 60 years? A couple of years after he said that, nothing has happened. We all know the genesis of the problem. And see, whatever this quick palliative they're trying to do, or this quick fix, I just hope it settles the problem. But if I'm to give you my critical, honest analysis, it might not settle the problem. What is the problem on ground? We all know the problem. The problem was that it was said that power was supposed to be zoned to the south prior to this time in the PDP, and all of a sudden, a northern candidate got it. And we saw the body language. That is what is causing the problem. And that is why Wike is upset. And let's call it spade a spade. This is broad daylight injustice. And you can see what the injustice has even done to the party. Look at the party chairman. By convention, which is supposed to be from a region. And a lot of people felt that when Iyorchia was elected as party chairman, through a consensus anyway, it was an affirmation to the fact that power was going to go to the south in the PDP. But all of a sudden, something happened. Somebody came back to the fray, and the presidential ticket was taken to the north. So there's an imbalance. And people like Ayo Fayoshi that are saying, our south local, he's just saying, respect the hitherto agreements. I wish them a lot of luck in trying to fix things with Wike. Anyway, Wike has now become a factor because it's important now, which I'm happy about that some people in the party have realized that Wike is important. But will it settle the division that has been caused by this? And going forward, hope the PDP in 2027 will not come back again and say, oh, in 2023, was supposed to be the turn of the South. The South was not smart enough. It's now the turn of the North again in 2027. Because there are some other people from the North too that are queuing up. And God sparing our lives to 2027. When the political process starts, they will make that same argument.
Of course they will.
That, oh, the South didn't take their own turn in 2023. It was supposed to be your turn now. After another candidate ran in 2019, it was supposed to be the turn of the South. You didn't take your own turn. It's now my turn in the North. So this is the effects of not keeping to agreement you have seen. I wish them luck in trying to placate the situation. You see, they might get away with it. They might be able to put their house in order and it might work for them. But there's a seed of discord already sown in the party. And let me also say this in closing. I like to quote the words of somebody that mean a lot to me, Dr. Taishola Are, that says, if you think you are indispensable, and for all of those that think they are indispensable in political sphere, this is for them. If Dr. Taishola Are says, if you think you are indispensable, dip a stick in a bucket of water. The little hollow formed will show you how people feel about you. I rest my case. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Rotu Sudiri, Michael Wilson, Adeso Omorwa, and Aaron Akejala to give us updates on Africa, global business, COVID-19, and supporting activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Mr. Wilson, Michael Wilson, joins us now from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Will do. Thank you. Right, Asia Pacific. Bearing in mind that the United States is on holiday today for Independence Day, once again, one of those kind of days in which everybody's searching for direction and not really finding anybody. But for what it's worth, Australian stocks slightly up, Hong Kong, South Korean slightly lower, China not doing an enormous amount, gaining about 0.1%, the Nikkei up very, very slightly indeed. But an interesting story from the United States about China. China has apparently bought some North Dakota farmland. North Dakota is one of those kind of states, if I remember correctly, where there's not a lot going on, basically. But they bought, and it's raised a lot of national security concerns in Washington. They bought 300 acres, but it's right next to a base where they're actually Air Force bases, home to some of the nation's most sensitive military drone technology, and it's also the home of a new space networking center. So you've got this normal kind of thing. The farmers have sold the land for millions of dollars, and now they're being told by Washington that it's a security issue. So there's a big row going on there. The Chinese automaker NIO reports record EV sales in June. The COVID wave is actually fading. XPeng and Li Auto still doing much better, though, than NIO. NIO delivered almost 13,000 vehicles in June, its best ever total, and its biggest one since it delivered 10,000 in December. I quote this just to show how the electric vehicle market is actually growing quite fast in China. Now, bearing in mind no markets in the United States, that's not stopped Jeff Bezos once again clashing with the US President Joe Biden over inflation. Biden called on companies managing gas pumps to cut prices, and Bezos is saying, no, come on, that's naive. They're not going to do that. And also the Build Back Better thing, the infrastructure spending that you're actually embarking on is going to build inflation. So it's a continuation of that row. Russia is going to take control of the Sakhalin 2 oil and gas project. Shell still has a 27.5% stake in that at the moment. A decree was signed by Putin on Thursday. It could force Shell and also Mitsubishi to abandon their investments, the economic fallout continuing. Now, give us oil. Now, this is from Faith Birol, who is the IEA executive director. He's called on Saudi to boost its production. This comes in the wake of a apocalyptic forecast from JP Morgan about the price of oil getting to $380 a barrel. Suspected, I'll come on to that slightly later in my report, but if Russia were to cut by 5 million barrels a day, it would actually push the price of oil up to that kind of level. Not saying it's going to, but that's their worst case scenario. I'll come on to it later on when I do the commodity report. Let's go to the EU and Germany. Germany's road traffic agency says 59,000 Tesla vehicles have a software glitch. This is to do with the emergency call system, and they are wanting to recall. There are 59,000 vehicles globally, and the Germans want to recall the number of those which are actually in Germany. And it adds to Tesla's problems, actually. Elon Musk was saying on Saturday that the company had delivered 17.9, nearly 18% less electric vehicles than fewer electric vehicles in the second quarter from the previous quarter. Turning our attention to the UK, sterling continuing to weaken because of all the problems going on in here. It hit about 120 against the dollar over the weekend. This weaker sterling might give a temporary boost to exports, but it's certainly now building inflation because of raw materials coming into the country and so on, structurally into the economy. Two big people whom I know, these are quite big analysts, one at Nomura, one at Panmure Gordon, have reversed their earlier stance about the UK and are now forecasting an outright recession in the UK. As you know, the Bank of England has raised interest rates by about 5 times. So a recession, they're saying, is going to actually happen. Number of pubs falls by 7,000 in a decade. The number of pubs in England and Wales continues to fall. People actually spending less, and also they're costing more money to run as well. And a marginal bit of good news as far as the rail strikes are concerned in the UK. No rush for more action, according to the RMT. They're still actually discussing things with Network Rail. The discussions look relatively positive, but we'll see about that. Let's have a look at that oil price then. So this JP Morgan Chase prediction, $380 a barrel. That's a sort of stratospheric level for oil. And, you know, I don't need to explain explain what would happen with that. I mean, it would be, but that would be if Russia were to cut its oil output 3 million barrels a day, could push benchmark London crudes to 190. The worst case is 5 million barrels a day, 380. And given the fact that they are getting a lot of money in at the moment from various people that are buying discount rates of oil, that Russians could afford to do this. It's going to be an interesting week ahead, as I keep saying. US markets closed today, but with increased worries about a recession in the United States. We've got the jobs figures on Friday, and we've got Fed minutes on Wednesday as well. So it's going to be a very interesting, if shortened week, a very interesting week for looking at how the biggest economy in the world is faring. That's the global view this morning.
All right. When a recession comes to the UK, because it will come, what will be the lot of people that were already bailed out during COVID-19? What will be the lot of the suffering British people? Because it will come soon. And secondly, when the high interest rates continues, even in America, what will be the lot of Fed in trying to stem the tide? Because there are no solutions now as we speak.
I think this is going to be a question for central banks around the world at the moment. The only one which is actually not hiking interest rates massively, of course, is the Bank of Japan. But yes, I mean, I think what will happen is that a recession is a technical term, as you know. I think we're already feeling the rise in the cost of living. It's going to increase as energy costs increase in the autumn, because that's a second wave of energy costs. So I think that a lot of people are going to be much less well off than they thought they were. I suspect that inflation is being inserted structurally now into our economy for the rise in raw material prices, which our economy needs, and all economies will be facing that as well, until there is some kind of solution to what's going on in Ukraine at the moment. I heard rumours that the wheat might start to flow again, but only rumours. That was over the weekend. As far as the Fed's concerned, I mean, that they will have to cope with a much stronger dollar. I mean, that's the bottom line. How they do that, I'm not quite sure. I mean, there's a lot of internal markets within the United States that don't depend on imports, although their exports will probably not do so well because of a stronger dollar. Man in the street, difficult to say. I mean, I think I'd be wiser after the event, after Friday, when we've seen what the jobs figures are for the previous month, and then I think we could start to make some sort of forecast or some sort of feelings about what's going on in the United States at the moment. But certainly the big one is going to be what happens in the UK, because it's got a much tighter labour market, much less labour mobility, and of course it's a much smaller economy.
Well, quickly, Russia has issued a 5-page decree taking over the Sakhalin 2 oil and gas project, the Sakhalin energy investment, in which Gazprom has 50%, and then 2 Japanese companies, Mitsui and Mitsubishi, also have stakes. Now, what is the implication of this? Because Russia seems to be playing politics with oil and gas supply. Shell has said, well, it will take a hit of over $3.5 billion, dollars, and then just move out. But the Japanese say they will stay. They would rather look for alternative supply. I just wanted your comment on that. And then in Argentina, the finance minister, Martin Guzman, resigned all of a sudden yesterday. And then by the end of the day, the president appointed Silvina Batakis as the new finance minister. And as at the time he left, Guzman was right in the middle of negotiations with IMF. But what is curious is that Batakis is more on the side of the Deputy President Fernandez Krishna, who recommends public spending, as opposed to the President Fernandez, who is, more interested in tightening monetary policy. So why will a man go and appoint someone who is not ideologically aligned with him as finance minister? Or is this an attempt by President Fernandez to reach out, to make peace with the Deputy President, former President Fernandez Krishna?
Well, your knowledge of the ins and outs of Argentine politics is more than I have to say. All I can do to comment on that is to say that there's a country which is absolutely enormous. It's had a lot of inflation problems over the years, as you know. It's had a lot of currency problems as well. I mean, they really need to engage with the IMF if they want to save themselves, because it's a very, very important part of the Latin America economic build-up at the moment. As I say, I do not know the details of what goes on politically in Argentina at the moment. I can only look at it from the outside. It isn't a place that I think particularly merits merits the size that it commands within the Latin American financial landscape because of its record of inflation over the years. But if that's going to change, that's good. Whatever happens internally, I don't know. Maybe we could talk about that when it's more obvious. As far as Russia's concerned, yeah, I mean, of course it will. So Shell will have to take a haircut on that. There's no question. The other companies will make up their own minds. I mean, basically, what we're looking at here is most of the multinationals that were acted very, very quickly to get out of Russia because they saw this actually happening. Remember, I mean, it looks bad, but I still maintain that Russia has got to find somewhere to sell the gas and the oil. And at the moment, the biggest move that's been made, as you know, has been by Lloyd's of London and also the EU by refusing to insure ships which are carrying Russian oil. Now, I do feel as though that is going to make a difference. It won't make a difference this week, but it will certainly make a difference as the year progresses. And once again, I'm sorry about this, but I feel as though a long-term view is probably better looked at, you know, in a couple of months' time when we've seen what the action of this is going to be. But I mean, you know, they may have it, and they may be dealing with it, but they've got to sell it somewhere. And that's really what I think the big question mark over Russia's future is going to be.
Well, speaking of interactions with the IMF, what might happen in Sri Lanka? Because they are under the most awful car crash of an economic crisis. They've run out of petrol for the next 2 weeks. I'm trying to imagine if that was ever to happen to us here in Nigeria. I'm really completely horrified by the case of Sri Lanka. But they've been talking to the IMF about a bailout. So what can we expect now? Why is that taking so long? I mean, can you give us some kind of assessment of their situation?
Well, Sri Lanka. Let's say what Sri Lanka is, and it's all down to Sri Lanka's own problems. Nothing to do with anything external. The place was getting to be a basket case as far as its economy is concerned, long before the geopolitical changes that we've actually seen. The IMF. Now, what happened on Friday was that the IMF in Sri Lanka failed to reach any kind of deal. There was a great deal of problems about this. I was reading stories over the weekend about people actually living in their cars so that they can actually get in a queue to get petrol. Now it appears as though I've been reading the same sort of stories that you have. It appears as though they've run out. The IMF apparently has not walked away. The IMF is going to continue discussions with Sri Lanka, but it's going to be very tough there because the IMF, you know, again, I refer everybody back to the Greek crisis. The IMF is pretty firm about what it actually does when you enter into agreement with it. The deal is always in the IMF's favour, not in the country that's about to be bailed out. So that's what will happen with Sri Lanka. Things are going to be very, very tough indeed.
Oh dear. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Wilson. Our dependable Rotus Adiri is here to give us an African business update. Morning, Rotus.
Yes, good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. The fuel issues are still prevalent in the country. They haven't really gone away, to be honest. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, they are threatening the, quote, mother of all fuel queues this week if 74 billion naira in bridging claims is not paid to them, which it's been owed over the past 12 months. The head of the midstream and downstream regulatory authority claimed that the payment of 74 billion naira had been made. And the head of it, man, I mean, they came out pretty forcefully saying that he should prove that that payment has been made. And they said that there's solidarity with their different depot. I mean, Ipman, I think, controls about 70% of as far as retail outlets are concerned in terms of supply. So again, the bridging claims are with respect to transporting fuel around the country. And you know, look, this hasn't gone away. Over the weekend, even right now, as we speak, there are fuel queues everywhere. You've got grid collapses, and then folks can't buy fuel for their generators to provide the power that the grid can't provide. And it really is enough to make a human being go crazy. Yeah, it is incredibly frustrating. I mean, as we speak, the queues are back. And that's before this threat of this mother of all fuel queues. So, I mean, there you have it. It just doesn't end. You know, it just doesn't end. We move from fuel to, well, this is kind of related to fuel. BRTs, the bus rapid transit. They're increasing fares by 100 naira across the board, effective July 13th. Lagos Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has approved it. Diesel costs, the rising cost of diesel is one of the reasons why. Lack of spare parts is another reason. So lack of spare parts leading to a lack of maintenance has reduced the supply of buses that are around. They're planning to convert this. We've heard this compressed natural gas thing for like 2 years now, where they said they were going to do it for every Nigerian, they were going to pay for it, then it disappeared, and now Lagos State is saying that they want to convert a number of these buses, which they already spent billions of naira importing elsewhere. Now they want to convert them to gas in order to reduce the cost of diesel. Yeah, sure. So you know, there's that. So they have a number of issues. So pretty much now, I mean, going from Berger to Ajah, I think is 600 naira. Now that's going to go to, just add 100 naira to pretty much every route you're using. Don't forget the Okadas are no longer around, right? So you are forced, if you don't have a vehicle of your own, to use this, and now you're going to pay more. That 100 naira, it translates to quite a lot. Multiply it over 5 days a week, over 4 weeks in a month, over a year. It's going to cost a lot. Nigerians spend, according to every report out there, majority of your income for the average Nigerian goes to food and transportation. So you add this fuel increase, or rather this mother of all fuel queues, what the spillover effect is going to be on transportation, the increase in the bus fare. Again, it is just rising frustration and anger for the average Nigerian whose wages are not moving corresponding to all these increases. There's that. What else is going on today? Oh yeah, this one's a good one. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Federation, he says that there's a new committee that's been inaugurated to, one, review the Onrosaye reports. How many times are we going to mention this thing? One, review the Onrosaye reports, and then two, they want to review all the ministries, departments, and agencies that have been created since 2014. He made reference to the last committee white paper that came out in 2011, 2012, put out its own report in 2014. It wasn't implemented, and now here's another one. This is an administration that is leaving office in less than a year. I don't have anything else to say about it. And then finally, it gets even worse. Apparently, according to Business Day, there's an article in there, multinationals are taking out insurance policies on their staff for kidnapping. And it's very confidential, because if 4 of us find out, doctor, there's a kidnapping insurance claim on doctor, how are we going to feel, right? So it's essentially, they have to keep it confidential in order for not to cause anger amongst staff. So it's very quiet. Also, well, it's out there in the open now. Knowing that there's an insurance claims out there on staff against kidnapping can actually boost the kidnapping. Knowing that, okay, if we catch this person, you can get a claim there. So everything is it's all just horrible news, and that's why there's no news elsewhere. I mean, Ghana is going back to the IMF. In South Africa, they are looking at, I think ESCOM offers 7.5% pay hike to unions, but that's secondary to what's going on in this country. It's just bad news everywhere. It's just frustration everywhere. It's just government not moving fast enough and paying lip service to a whole bunch of issues. And well, it's Monday, so welcome to a new week.
All right, welcome to a new week. It's Monday. Quite very sad one, Rotus, but like Tunde always says, we need to Be optimistic.
About
Because
what?
you see-
Be optimistic about what?
Hang on a minute. Because if we want to talk about solutions, we have to be optimistic. So no matter how terrible it is, we still have to talk solutions. That's why he brought these issues forward. Real quickly, we can't keep going around in circles. We all know the solution to our subsidy problems and the likes. We all know the solution to this IPMA problem. Fix the refineries. Make them work. We've said that for the opt-in time. Maybe, just maybe, any candidate that gets elected in 2023 would actually fix 1 or 2 refineries. Fix the refineries, remove subsidies, and let things flow. Our cost of living crisis that's on the increase, we know the solution to it. What are the solutions? Quick wins. At first, I'm shocked that we have a lot of buses in Lagos, but we have a bus maker in Nigeria, Inuson. Can't he meet demand? Can we engineer the industry to have more Nigerian bus makers to come in? Can't we try as much as possible to still fix the refinery so that at least we can get diesel for a stable price? The government promised that they're going to do all our cars to CNG gas. You know, remember the promise?
Yes, they did.
They promised, but they've not done it. So can we hold them accountable that please do our cars with CNG because you promised? I remember, you know, because what the day you make you brought it here, I remember I asked them, how are they going to pay for it?
Exactly.
I knew the cost was
going to be 150 or 250,000 per car.
Rotus, I said earlier, see, politicians are mercurial. Maybe that, Dr. Abati like said, maybe that was poetry. That was audio. There are many things that they say that is audio.
But I think
and the real thing is different.
Rotus,
so these are the solutions.
Sorry. And thank you, Rufai. That was very useful. We don't curse the darkness. We light a candle.
No, we light a candle.
Rotus, you are due for a holiday.
You might be sad,
Rotus,
but
you've had it. Rotus, you need
solutions.
a holiday. And I'm going to send you a song to listen to. That's my playlist from When Nigeria is Breaking My Heart. Marvin Gaye, Inner City Blues. And this country does break your heart.
Okay.
Now, I want to know about this committee, the opt-in committee, President Muhammadu Buhari is inaugurating, because he created 5 new ministries. What's he talking about? Rosaye report. Isn't that the exact opposite of the Rosaye report? You're trying to lower the cost of government. You created 5 ministries. Make it make sense. And then when you're about to leave,
what about MDs
Like-
under NNPC? You know how many parts NNPC has been broken into now? All right,
no, but okay, we can even say that's the PIA, that's not him. But the creation of 5 new ministries, and then you now have this committee when you're leaving in 5 minutes, right? I don't get it.
Be optimistic.
In 2012, April 2012, that was when the Onosaye committee submitted its report.
Right.
Now, subsequently, the Jonathan government set up a committee to come up with white paper. It was a white paper. What's the purpose of the Onosaye committee? To reduce the cost of governance, to avoid duplication, to rationalize the ministries, to eliminate some ministries, departments, and agencies in order to bring down cost. Nothing happened.
Nothing.
In 2014,
Zero.
In 2014, the Buhari administration revisited that report. We were all excited. We thought, oh yes, finally, we'll reduce the cost of governance. Now, the Buhari administration set up 2 subcommittees. One of them led by Ama Pepo, the other one, I think, led by Professor Afolabi. Then a white paper committee was set up. Well, what happened to that white paper? We were jubilating that, implementation at last. And now this is the 3rd committee, led by another former, head of the service of the Federation, to again do what? To come up with a white paper. I think the problem is really one of the lack of political will and also of territoriality. When that report was first submitted, the Onosaye committee, I was there in council, you could see that nobody wanted to let go of anything. Mm-hmm. Every minister was trying to protect his own parastatals because these departments and agencies, they are under the ministries. There are some ministries that have about 20 parastatals. Nobody wanted to lose anything. So it should not be about personal interest, about people trying to turn Nigeria into a personal fiefdom where they will have control over certain areas. It's about the cost of governance. Now, the second thing, of course, that you brought up, yes, well, about the cost of diesel. Someone coming from Ikorodu to Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos State now will spend 600 naira. To go back, another 600 naira. That's 1,200. If you are going from Baga to Aja, you pay 700 naira. To go back, 1,004. These people, the main pain of the average Nigerian is that wages are not increasing.
Right.
Inflation is going up.
Yeah.
They are having to pay more. I hope we will learn the lessons from Sri Lanka.
Exactly.
In Sri Lanka, people stay at fuel stations for 2 days to be able to get a drop of fuel. 2 weeks ago, the government said private vehicles, only essential vehicles, will have access to fuel. Now, there's even no fuel. By this time, there's no fuel anywhere in the whole of Sri Lanka, in a country of 22 million people. The next supply that they are expecting is in 2 weeks' time, July 22, July 23, from Qatar, right, and India. And they don't even have the money to pay. The energy minister says, we have no cash. Can you imagine? A country independent since 1948, grinding to a halt. And what is the problem? Failure of governance. In Ghana, next door, last week there were 2 days of protests over rising prices. They've tried everything in Ghana, including MPs, members of parliament, exchanging blows in the Ghanaian parliament, including cuts in salaries, including e-levy. It has not worked. The same Oforiata, the minister of finance, who was saying, oh, Ghana will not take any IMF. They are now, Ghana is now talking to the IMF.
They said, search your soul.
With the Ghanaian cedi having been devalued, having depreciated 22% to the dollar. Debt to GDP ratio, 80.1%. Yeah. The statistics in Nigeria are probably worse. After our debt to GDP ratio is higher than that. So before Nigerians begin to troop out because of lack of fuel and inability to move from one part of this country to the other, whatever we need to do, we should start doing it now. In Sri Lanka, the excuse, and also in Ghana, John Mahama of the NDC, yes, the opposition party, is saying that, look, Ghana should have acted much earlier. So if there are lessons we can learn from elsewhere, let us learn these lessons instead of government giving excuses. The Lagos State government has approved a flat rate of 100 naira increase. Well, finally, this insurance for executives will just make big men a target for kidnapping. And kidnapping will become big business. I understand that there are some insurance companies who are selling the cover. Maybe people who don't want that cover should make it clear that you have maybe an executive. But I don't want kidnapping insurance. Right. However, the serious point is that this is again an indication of how really bad the situation is with security. You know, individuals are no longer safe. Companies now are thinking of buying kidnap cover for the executives. I hope we will not get to a situation where chief executives and big men in corporate Nigeria will no longer be safe. Because once you kidnap them, the kidnapper will say, well, I want a cut of the insurance claim cover. Yeah,
I mean, that's a sad rant. You know, there was a report that came out that said if you are to divide Ghana's national debt by each citizen, each citizen will pay 18,000 cedis. Yeah. That's how bad. And between 2012 to now, Ghana's national debt has increased by 246%.
It's pretty bad.
What does all of this say? Failure of leadership. Yeah. Pure and simple. The problem with Africa is failure of leadership. Darren Acemoglu wrote in his book, Why Nations Fail. Because their leaders make them fail. Pure and simple.
Not just in Africa.
Elsewhere in the world. Everywhere. It's leadership. So the day you get leadership right, that's the day Nigeria starts to change. And that's why, please, 2023 matters. Don't allow people buy your vote. I beg you. Please, don't allow people buy your vote. Vote your conscience. Don't allow people that give you money today and give you suffering tomorrow. Don't allow people lie to you. Interrogate manifestos. Because if you get it wrongly and you have a bad leader, things will be bad for you. The only substitute to bad leadership is bad life.
But on that grim note, thank you, Rotas.
Thank you. Your dress is a highlight, at least with all the bad news.
Thank you. I'm glad to be useful here. For an update on the COVID-19 pandemic, Adeswa Omoran is here with us. Good morning, Adeswa. Where have you been? I've missed you, Adeswa.
Queen.
Joshua, good morning.
Good morning. Great to be back here.
Queen of Edo
Good morning, Dr. Abati, and good morning, Rufai.
Queen of Edo Kingdom.
Well, I wish I had better news for you than Rotus ended on that note, but I don't. Let's take a quick look at the pandemic dashboard provided by the Johns Hopkins University this morning. 549 million infections so far, at least 6.3 million deaths from the pandemic. But when you look at the excess deaths for the year, the WHO says about 15 million people have actually died, and 11.7 billion vaccine doses have been administered. Now, let me tell you why I don't have better news for you, because when you break down those figures, and the WHO has been doing that since the pandemic, when you break down those figures in recent weeks, the WHO says, just when we thought COVID-19 was on the wane, the virus is back with a vengeance. Tedros Ghebreyesus, who's the Director General of the WHO, says that about 110 countries are now seeing increases in the virus. And he's again warning that the pandemic is far from over. He says the world's ability to track the virus genetic evolution is also under threat as these countries are relaxing restrictions. And of course, people are not really testing. We are not even doing the sequencing much anymore. So we cannot track what we are not looking for. We cannot see what we're not looking for. Basically, that's what the WHO is saying. And the World Health Organization is also saying that the Omicron variant is dominating the recent surge in the global infections. Its two main mutations of the BA4 and BA5 are also harder to track and resistant to vaccines. Well, here in Nigeria, the story is not any different. 347 COVID-19 infections have been recorded between June 30th and July 1st. And that's the latest data that we have. Now, the new cases are from 7 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Lagos alone, as you can see, recorded 265 cases. Lagos, where you guys are, recorded 265 cases between 30th of June and 1st of July. No deaths, thankfully, have been reported officially by the Nigerian government. So the casualty from COVID-19 in Nigeria remains at 3,144 as at this latest data. Let's look at the vaccination figures in Nigeria. The authorities say Nigeria now has 20.9% or 23.3 million eligible persons targeted, fully vaccinated against the coronavirus. And away from that, with the surge in COVID cases, France is saying people should return to wearing their mask. Officials are recommending that people return to wearing masks as hospitalizations from COVID-19 surge in the last 2 weeks in the country. Nearly 1,000 people are admitted per day in France in the last 2 weeks. The French government spokesperson, Olivier Grégoire, has said that there are no plans to reintroduce national regulations that would limit gathering indoors or other activities. So it's cautious warning for the French people. The infection is back on the rise, but we want you to return to wearing face masks. Meanwhile, the masks are coming off in Russia as the country lifts all restrictions imposed due to the coronavirus pandemic. According to the country's Consumer Rights and Wellbeing Agency, the requirement to wear masks and the night ban on restaurants have now been suspended nationwide. We've seen some cities drop these restrictions earlier in the year, including the capital, Moscow, but now it's nationwide. It, however, says that if the situation worsens again, the measures could be implemented back. Back to you guys.
Okay, well, COVID infections and the WHO Director General, the main indication is that it is not over yet with COVID-19. And poorer countries, we're told, are worst hit. In poorer countries of the world, the rate of vaccination is not more than 13% out of the 1.2 billion vaccine doses that have been administered so far. But if you also look at the statistics that have been provided, the Middle East is the most affected, with 47% rise on a daily basis in cases, about 1,000 daily cases being reported. But the thing, of course, is for people to take necessary precautions. The danger, however, is that it could get worse because there will be more travels, during summer. And many of these countries have decided that they would rather live with COVID-19 than impose new restrictions. One good example is France, where tourism is beginning to boom again. But the government is saying, well, there may be BA4 variant, there may be BA5 variant, difficult to trace, but we are not going to impose any mandate again, mask mandate. Well, you may say the reason is political. After all, the far left that opposed Macron's COVID policy gained more votes in last month's parliamentary elections. Yes. So the government is saying, no, we're not. We are expecting that people will act responsibly. And that is the whole point, that message from France, that people should take necessary precautions to protect themselves. Although we're told that the BA4 and the BA5 variants don't necessarily result in hospitalization. In the UK, there's been a slight increase in cases of hospitalization, but it's not as bad, as it was before now. So I think that point about people taking precautions is important. And the Russia that you mentioned, yes, Russia is using the restrictions, but the same Russian government is saying if there is too sharp, too steep an upsurge, then it will have no option but to advise people, to use the mask again. 52% of the population has been vaccinated in Russia with the Sputnik 5 vaccine. But I hope that a lot more, will still be done for those poorer countries, some of them in Africa and in the Americas, who are, vulnerable. Although there's no statistics as to the increase in Africa in COVID cases, but you can be sure that, Africa is also affected.
COVID just won't, I was going to use a word I probably shouldn't, just won't go away, and it needs to. Look at poor President Xi Jinping. After the really draconian lockdowns in China with their zero COVID policy, he went to Hong Kong and took a group picture, only to discover that one of the people in the picture, a Hong Kong legislator, has tested positive for COVID. So it just goes to show that in spite of all our best efforts, it continues to be such a challenge.
For me, Adesua, the scary part is the fact that Nigerians are not getting vaccinated. And I can't drum that enough. Look at Lagos, that you see there's a big resurgence in the case now. How many Lagosians are vaccinated? The numbers have gone down tremendously. And I'm sure when the guys that collate the data, the UNICEFs of this world, and go bring out the numbers, you'll be shocked. I keep talking about the negligible, threshold of 30%. The truth is, we've not even gotten close to that point. I think the last reports that the NCDA reported was, I think, 21 million Nigerians, right?
NCDC.
Yeah, 21 million Nigerians have been vaccinated. The number is still a far cry for a population of well over 200 million people. So please, I don't know. I've been thinking of ways at which people can even get this thing vaccinated and everything. And one idea came to my head. Maybe we can work with the telecoms company that once you get vaccinated, you get data. You know why? Because recently a report came out that 145 million Nigerians are active users on the internet. So if we can at least target that 145 million people, that you get data bonuses, maybe like a 5 or 10,000 data. I don't know how they are going to do it or prorate it, just for you to get a jab. I think that can also incentivize people. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. Because the problem is we are not getting vaccinated.
You say data, I say petrol.
Or maybe even petrol.
Get vaccinated,
God bless
get
you.
a free voucher
maybe,
to get
maybe
petrol for
as
free.
people are queuing.
Or, get amala or jollof rice,
yes,
like Dr.
maybe
Abati
as people are, maybe, sorry, Dr. Abati. Maybe as people are queuing in filling station now, maybe as people are queuing in filling station now, they should take, the COVID-19 vaccine booths to filling stations. And at least get people jabbed in filling stations. As they are queuing, put it out of the bag, health officials see that they get jabbed, and you give them, even if it's 5 or 10 liters or something. Anyhow, but Adesua, I must have to complain, our COVID-19 vaccination numbers are abysmally
It's
low.
worrisome.
It's worrisome.
Low.
And it looks as though we've forgotten about it. Now that we even have Johnson & Johnson that has just one dose.
But this was what happened to all those donations of vaccines. The U.S. just donated over 4 million doses. We've received donations from Greece, Slovenia, and countries in mainland Europe. And Nigeria
Italy,
has a mass
they keep
vaccination.
receiving those donations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I hope it's not that these vaccines are kept in one store somewhere until they get until they expire and they are no longer useful.
Expired.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adesu.